What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host, Amanda, back on as usual. Good to have you, Amanda.
As always, it is good to be here.
And we're getting into each week we're getting the pictures coming a little bit more clear. Um, it was a fun week of football. We had some upsets that nobody saw coming. A real fun week of football. What did you think? I mean, chaos really throughout the league.
Oh, it was absolutely chaotic this week. It was a week of upsets, a week of really big injuries. I mean, we came off the Mageddon last week, and then this week, I mean, it was interesting to see how teams recovered from losing some big name players, and teams did not recover from losing some of their big name players. But yeah, I liked all the upsets this week. I got my ass kicked in picks. I'm sure everyone did. Um, but some of those games were crazy. I picked one or two of the upsets to come off, but man, it was an interesting week for sure.
Yeah, and like crazy for fan bases too. You had like three or four quarterbacks get injured, and so fan bases holding their breath as far as that goes. And then you had some teams that everyone thought they knew and were undefeated go down to in games they shouldn't have gone down to. So it's gonna be fun to talk about this week. I'm excited. Let's get started with the London game. The 3-2 Ravens at the 2-3 Titans. Both teams were coming off of bad losses, so someone needed to rebound. The Titans were without Traylon Burks for a third straight game. Ravens jump out to an 18-3 halftime lead. I'm watching it and I'm upset the way this game started out. Ravens kicking their ass. Titans get back into it, 18-13 behind Derrick Henry, but the Ravens hang on to win 24-16. Ryan Tannehill gets hurt. Um, what did you think of this game? Ravens with a big get right win in London.
I mean, numerically, it looks like it was a good win for the Ravens, but it was messy. I mean, Lamar was frustrated. He was punching the turf. I mean, shout out to Geno Stone for that interception that slowed Tennessee and helped the Ravens hold on to that lead because the game was much closer than it looked. And honestly, had the Ravens not been holding Tennessee to field goals, Tennessee would have won this game. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this game was all field goals. Like
Yeah.
this is one of those good news, bad news situations. Like the good news, Baltimore scored on its first four drives and 5 out of 6 of their first half possessions. The bad news, 4 of those were Justin Tucker field goals. Like I know you have the best kicker in the league. We love Justin Tucker, but where are the touchdowns?
Yeah, I agree. But if you're a Ravens fan too, hey, at least you're kicking them, right? At least John Harbaugh isn't going for it, and a lot of those aren't turnover on downs. This is a classic example of how you can win games with the field goal kicking if you need it. But yeah, all this talk about the Ravens offense being prolific and Todd Monken's going to come in here and they're going to be putting up points left and right, and you're still seeing some struggles. And I don't know if the Titans are the best defense in football, so the Ravens still a work in progress on that side of the ball, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they redeemed themselves a bit at the beginning of the game. I mean, they lost to the Steelers last week. Jackson started the game by spreading the ball around. First 7 passes went to 5 different receivers. They looked really good in those first few possessions, but then it was mind-boggling to see Monken lean on the run after that. Like the passing game had gotten going, and he's like, actually, let's just stop passing. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened there. Like you have receivers, they're all catching the ball. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened. I mean, it went awry very, very quickly.
Yeah. It was nice to see Zay Flowers catch his first NFL touchdown, first of his career.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
a week off with that prediction. I thought it was going to happen last week. So shout out to him for pulling through for me finally.
yeah, we knew it was going to happen eventually. He's too good of a receiver not to get into the end zone. Nice to see it finally happen. For the Titans, it sucks to see Ryan Tannehill go down, injures his ankle, has to have the cart take him to the locker room, leaves the game on crutches. I mean, if the Titans don't have Tannehill and they fall to 2-4, this is not a good sign for the future for Tennessee, is it?
No, and I mean, before the injury even happened, they had a lot of other problems too. So like, yeah,
Hmm.
losing Tannehill's an issue, but I mean, I don't think we can put all the blame on Tannehill for the game going wrong. They converted just 1 3rd down in 9 tries. They had 233 yards of total offense. I mean, after their opening drive field goal, the next 3 drives were punts, and then they followed that by a muffed punt return.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the worst is that fumbled punt right before
yeah,
halftime just gives the Ravens an automatic 3 points.
like
Kyle Phillips.
luckily
Yeah,
they have this bye week to sort out the QB situation and see what's going to happen. I mean, they've got Malik Willis available. I mean, he stepped in and finished the game. He was 4 or 5 for 74 yards, like not bad numbers. But I mean, are they going to use the bye week to take a good look at Will Levis? I mean, I'm
yeah.
intrigued to see what happens.
I was going to ask you about that. I am a big fan of Malik Willis. I liked him coming out of Liberty. I was high
Mhm.
on him in the draft. I'm not a big fan of Will Levis, but he was higher ranked. He's a more NFL ready quarterback. What would you do? Uh, where's your gut saying Malik Willis or Will Levis going forward?
I mean, Malik finished the game and looked good.
Hmm.
He's feeling good. Let him come in, like give him a chance. I don't think it's fair to let him finish out the game and then hand the start away to someone else next week. Like give him 1 game, give him a couple quarters, see how he does. If he can't hang, swap him out and then let Will Levis start the following week. But I think Malik has earned this start next week or after the bye week.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see Malik get a solid chance. And you think about some of the best backfields in football is an athletic quarterback with a hell of a running back. And you think about the potential of Malik Willis and Derrick Henry. I mean, if Henry doesn't do what he does in this game, it's probably, you know, 24-3 or 24-6, a huge blowout. Derrick Henry is really the only thing that got that offense going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you on the Malik Willis thing, but the Titans sitting at 2-4, hanging by a thread a little bit. They need something to get going. Mike Vrabel was so frustrated in this game. What are your thoughts on the Ravens? They get to 4-2 in a wide open division. No one's really running away with it. You think the Ravens can start playing some better football?
Oh, I hope so. I was kind of bummed for Justin Tucker in this game, honestly. He was 1 point shy of his career high for points in a game, so I was kind of bummed for him. But I mean, the Ravens have all the pieces there. They've been in a bit of a slump. Their offense has fizzled a bit. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Weeks 1 through 3, I thought they were going to look a lot more in sync than they are right now. But they're pulling off wins still. But Lamar Jackson's numbers are very inefficient in the red zone. I mean, he's going 2 of 3 for 13 yards in the red zone, 16 of 23 in the red zone total this year.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
not great. And I've talked about that a little bit about these teams who are winning, but they have red zone issues on previous episodes, and it's something that's going to matter a lot more coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and if the passing game's not working, use Lamar's legs. He's one of the most dangerous weapons in the entire league. Get creative and get Lamar out in space and use his legs in the red zone. I mean, it's a defense's nightmare to try and stop that guy close to the end zone.
Yeah, I think there was some interesting calls this week, and they definitely have some kinks to work out coming into the next week.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep a close eye on the Ravens. Let's go Commanders Falcons. What do you think? How do you think this game went?
Okay, so I talked shit last week about the Commanders' defense. I said Jack Del Rio had to figure something out because they've been a mess. So I think maybe he was listening. Because Washington's defense, they bounced back great. They had a 3 interception game. I mean, they were embarrassed last week, but they came out. I mean, they made the game challenging. They, game-changing play after game-changing play. They intercepted Desmond Ritter 3 times in the second half. We had Davis, Bijan Robinson. I mean, it was nice. There were some good sacks too. So I think they definitely won this game for their offense. Atlanta's offense was a mess, and I attest that to Washington. And I have not been a fan of Washington this year. You know that. I've talked shit about them consistently. But they pulled off this win. They deserve this win. I picked them to lose. Um, I think I have a little bit of an issue with them because of I don't know. I feel like they win games they shouldn't win, and it's just by luck or a bad day for the other team. But they earned this win for sure. That defense really stepped up and pulled through for them. And I mean, Desmond Ridder, first career home loss. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
we've
yeah. And Ritter played bad. No,
yeah.
no, nothing you can say about that. Ritter threw this game away with the
Hmm.
turnovers. Um, they made some bad decisions. They had, let's see, I mean, it was turnovers on downs and turnovers on those final like three possessions, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna win doing stuff like that. Arthur Smith throwing his hands up in the air like it was obvious. I look for Taylor Henneke to get some playing time soon. I think the Falcons coaching staff is their patience is wearing out with Desmond Ritter, and
Yeah.
I've said it going back to when he was drafted. I just don't think he's an NFL quarterback. Maybe he's a decent backup, but in my opinion, he's a poor man's Marcus Mariota. And is that any good? Like, I just don't see it with Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, oh, I agree with you. I mean, their run game was stunted by that Commanders defense. They needed him to step up some big plays, get some good throws out, carry the game on his legs a little bit. But I mean, he was throwing behind receivers, throwing into heavy traffic, missing
Mm-hmm.
open receivers. I mean, it was bad. He finished 28 of 47 for 307 yards, two touchdowns, three interceptions. And those were nasty interceptions. Not one of those, oh wow, where did that defender come from interceptions. They were dead into the wrong hands. Um, and I know Arthur Smith got some questions after this game because there was some mental mistakes and some play call that seemed a little sus in this game. I mean, passing call on second down, delay of game penalties. I mean, I Ritter got in his head, and I don't think coaching was there to bail him out at all.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think Atlanta would be better off with a veteran quarterback. So put Taylor Henneke in there. All the media, everyone is keeps bringing up Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. They say you put Kirk Cousins in that offense with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and you've got a playoff team, if not a contender in the NFC. I want to see what Taylor Henneke can do first before
Yeah.
I try to pull the trigger on a trade. But Ritter doesn't seem like he's the guy. And the Commanders are one of those teams. I agree with you. The Commanders are inconsistent. One week they show up, the other week they don't. I mean, they look so bad against the Bears,
Oh
but
God,
then
yeah.
they beat who they beat. That was an impressive win. I mean, they just they're inconsistent as hell. It helps when the greatest point guard of all time, Magic Johnson, calls them out. That gave them a little added spark, especially on defense. So they played well and a good win for Washington. But I don't think either of these teams is going to the playoffs, you know?
Yeah, no. And Washington didn't beat anyone impressive. They took the Eagles to OT. That's the only impressive thing they've done all season.
Yeah.
Their
And
wins are over the Cardinals and the Broncos, so no one is impressed by that.
yeah, so they got both teams with plenty to prove. And I'm higher on Sam Howell right now than I am Desmond Ritter, and that says a lot.
God, that just made me nauseous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Calais Campbell. He netted his 100th career sack. It was his first sack of the year, his 16th NFL season. That's a big milestone for him though. So I just want to let him get some credit for that because it was a rough game, but at least somebody had a little personal victory.
Yeah, shout out Calais Campbell. He's a pro's pro. He's a veteran, been doing it for a long ass time, a locker room leader. He's a great guy to have on any defense.
Absolutely agree with you.
So let's go to my Bears hosting the Minnesota Vikings, a battle of two 1-4 teams, bringing up the basement of the NFC North. No Justin Jefferson for the Vikings, no Khalil Herbert for the Bears. Justin Fields coming off of two back-to-back games where he looked pretty good, 8 touchdowns in his last 2 games. So Bears fans were optimistic. You know, we're hoping that this is Fields had turned a corner. Um, but that did not happen as the Vikings led 19-6 in the third quarter and win 19-13. Fields dislocates his thumb and leaves in the third quarter, and the Bears reverted to their shitty play on both sides of the ball and just looked terrible. Um, anything positive from the Vikings that you saw, or just a battle of two bad teams?
I mean, this game wasn't quite what we'd hoped for. I really wanted a super scrappy, like competitive, just dogfight of shitty
Yeah.
teams. Like
Yep.
sometimes those winless or low win teams, it's still a good game when they're evenly matched and they scrap it out. Like they're like they'll get bloody to get a win at this point. This was not what we hoped for. I mean, this is the Vikings' fifth straight win over Chicago, and we saw the better QB, at least on paper, leave with an injury, which sucked. So the
Mhm.
sloppy Vikings pulled off a win against Tyson Bagent. I've heard it pronounced
Ba-
both ways. I don't know how this will go.
Bagent is what we're
Bagent.
saying in Chicago. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's your quarterback, Bagent. I like it. But yeah, he was, I mean, undrafted Division II Shepherd University, like obviously not the guy you hoped would be quarterbacking this week. And his first possession strip sack, ouch. That's not how you want to start your NFL debut there, kid.
Hmm.
So yeah, tough game, but Fields didn't look that much better before he went out. He was holding the ball way too long. He was getting swarmed. I mean, in the first half, he was 6 out of 10, one interception. Yeah, he was under a lot of pressure. The O-line wasn't holding. The Bears just didn't look good in this game, and I had picked the Bears to win. I think had Justin Fields stayed in, they would have pulled off another touchdown, and it would have been a close game, but a Bears win. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, the Vikings had their season low 220 yards, so it's not like they had anything to call home about either. They just happened to take out the other quarterback.
Yeah, I expected the Vikings offense to be not as good without Justin Jefferson, obviously, like that makes sense. But the Bears are terrible. And as a Bears fan, there's a GIF or whatever of King Poles does it again. And, I don't understand. You've got Justin Fields, who's been injured, he's been injured every year so far of his career behind a bad offensive line, and you don't have a veteran backup. You're gonna give us undrafted rookie Tyson Bagent out of Shepherd's Pie University. Like, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah, I had
Like,
never heard his name before.
yeah, we saw him in preseason, and Bears fans are like, "Oh, he's gonna be a star or whatever." Like, that's just
Yeah.
blind optimism. Like, get somebody, whether it's Joe Flacco or anybody, that can be something in there. I mean, Andy Dalton would look better at this point, but it's just frustrating. The Bears, I don't expect anything out of this team. 1-5 suits them. And hopefully Justin Fields isn't out long, because that's the only bright spot to this team, really. Justin Fields with the ability to throw to DJ Moore.
Hmm.
Um,
I
just
mean, the win
yeah.
last week was all on your offense. Like that Bears defense is awful, but I mean, the the win against the Commanders, that was all the Bears offense. So
Hmm.
I was hoping to see that kind of show. I mean, I knew that their defense wasn't going to do anything. And I mean, the Vikings played shitty against a shitty defense. So that says a lot more about the Vikings, I think, for losing or for winning this game by 6 points. Um, but I think it's going to be interesting going forward because there doesn't seem to be a timeline on Fields' return. They just said it depends on his grip strength. What the fuck
Yeah.
does that mean?
Well, so it's a dislocated thumb, and that he tried to come back in the game, but he couldn't grip the football. So it doesn't sound like it's a major injury. It might be a 1 to 2 week injury, 3 weeks at
Okay.
most. We should see him back. But in the meantime, who are you going to put Tyson Bagent? You're not going to win any football games with this guy at quarterback, especially with a horrible defense as well. So, and Bears fans were optimistic because Eddie Jackson was playing, Jalen Johnson was back. Our
Hmm.
secondary was whole for the first time since week one. And what do we do? Not much. I mean, held the Vikings to 19, but, I don't know. Um, So it's going to be a long year, Bears fans. Be prepared for a top five pick once again. And fire Matt Eberflus into the sun. He's 4-19 record as head coach, 0-8 in the NFC North. And he's a defensive coach, and we have one of the worst defensive units in the entire league. So not too much to be optimistic about if you're a Bears fan. For the Vikings, you get to 2-4. You need Justin Jefferson back, but again, two teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with you, but I know what I'm getting you for Christmas now. I'm going to make you a shirt that says "Fire Evilfoos into the Sun" because that's amazing. We'll start selling them in Chicago.
Absolutely.
All right, so
um,
we talked about your local home team. Let's talk about the team out here by me. We had Seattle's at Bengals. I mean, this was considered an upset, I guess. I mean, the
I
Bengals
thought
pulled off
so.
a
Yeah.
17-13 win. Um, what did you think about this one? Because I had some questions for Pete Carroll.
So this one surprised the hell out of me. I mean, the Seahawks were getting Jamal Adams back, so the Legion of Boom 2.0 is there. I expected Seattle, especially holding the Bengals to just 17 points. Their defense played pretty well. I expected the Seahawks to win this one like 27-17. Credit to Lou Anarumo and the Bengals defense. They were swarming Geno Smith. They did a great job with pressure on him all day. Um, I would have liked to see them get Kenneth Walker more involved in the game. He does go for 89 yards and a touchdown, but the Seahawks just struggled and couldn't make a play when it mattered most. Uh, Three times they were in the red zone and unable to come away with points late in the game. Similar to Atlanta, it was, the offensive struggles were bad. But to me, credit to Lou Anarumo and that Bengals defense. They stepped up and balled out, and they got some guys over there, Trey Hendrickson and Logan Wilson, the linebacker. They got some guys over there that aren't the most popular names that are ballers on that defense. I thought the Bengals defense played really well.
Yeah, I will say that. I think this game was lost in the coaching though for Seattle. I mean, they had 4 minutes left in the game. They had an opportunity to go for a field goal here, and instead they turned over on downs. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they ended up losing the game by 4 points. Had they taken that field goal instead of going for a touchdown there, I mean, they were on the 14, or no, the
Yeah,
6. They were on the 6, and instead of going for it, they got sacked, lost 8 yards, and then turned over on downs on the 14. You're on the 6 yard line. I understand the numbers say whatever the numbers say, but if a field goal is going to put you in a position, trust your defense to get the stop. I mean, you've got the Legion of Boom 2.0 or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You
mm-hmm.
take the field goal, trust your defense to stop. I mean, there's 4 minutes left in the game. Take your field goal, be down 1, trust your defense to get one more stop. All you need is one more field goal and you win the game.
Yeah,
Instead, they go for it, turnover on downs, get in a position where they have to go for a touchdown and can't do it. But
yep.
they were in position to make both field goals and they just passed on them on that first one, and it would have changed the outcome of the game. And I don't understand what the fuck happened.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just being impatient and, yeah, not trusting your defense, right? Pete Carroll, of all people, he's had tons of experience and he knows this defense better than anybody. In a sloppy game like this, where both teams are struggling to score, you have to take the points. You have to
Yeah.
trust your defense. And red zone issues were the story of the game. I mean, Geno Smith with a terrible interception earlier in the game, I believe in the first half, in the red zone, that you just can't throw. And then, yeah, the final two possessions, you kick two field goals, you win the game. But instead, two turnovers on downs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a recipe to lose a game. The
Yeah, it bugs
Bengals,
me. It bugs me
yeah,
that by the numbers, this looks like a Seattle win. I mean, they outgained
mm-hmm,
the Bengals 381 to 214, 24 first downs for Seattle, 15 for the Bengals. They possessed the ball for 34 minutes of the game, but they returned their trips down the field. They turned them repeatedly into nothing.
yeah, yeah.
It was pretty frustrating to watch for sure.
That's why I get on coaches every week for not taking the points. Like you look at the Ravens, if they had done that, then the game would have been a lot closer, and maybe the Titans steal a win. You have to take the points. You have to kick field goals, especially in sloppy games where it's hard to score. And credit to the Bengals defense, but the Bengals deserve to win this game,
Mm-hmm.
and they outcoached the Seahawks. That's how I see it too.
Yeah, and that Bengals defense forcing 2 interceptions in the second half. I mean, granted, they only turned those into 3 points, which was lackluster at best. But I mean, they didn't need that many points to win this game.
Hmm.
Smith looked okay until those interceptions, and yeah, they definitely helped pressure him into losing that game for them. Um, and Jamar Chase became the fifth fastest player in the NFL to reach 3,000 receiving yards. So kudos to him for that. He's been having quite the season this year. So that's definitely a high point and a great win for Cincinnati. They needed this one.
Yeah, so after starting 1-3, they're back to 500 at 3-3, back in the mix in that division. Should we? Are the Bengals starting to figure it out? A sloppy win, but if the defense can play up to this level, then the offense can slowly start to play better and better and better. Maybe they turn it around and are contending in that division by the time we get to week 17.
I mean, if I had asked you coming into this season, which season going into week 7 would have all of their teams at or above 500, would you have guessed the AFC North?
Uh, yes, I would have. I
Okay.
think the AFC North is very competitive. I like every team in that division, but if you told me that the Bengals were going to start slow, you told me that Deshaun Watson was going to get hurt, the Ravens offense wasn't going to be what it is, then I don't know if I would say that. So it's interesting for sure.
I mean, the AFC East would have been my guess. I mean, Aaron Rodgers on the Jets, the Bills, Dolphins, New England, Belichick, like
Yeah.
that would have been my guess had you asked me which division would be at or above 500. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely a snug division and it could go any way at this point.
You're seeing that this year, the parity is like crazy. Like there's so many teams in the mix. There's very few bad teams, and a lot of teams that are 500 or in that right in the mix. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting year so far. Shout out to the script writers doing a great job this year, guys.
They couldn't write this. If they wrote a script where the Browns beat the Niners and the Jets beat the Eagles, everyone would laugh at them. So,
Oh, let's talk about that Niners at Browns game. I mean, that was quite the outcome there.
hmm that
I
was a
mean,
fun game.
it was so fun. You and I have talked about this Browns defense all season. This week proved why. I mean, the Browns came into this game missing their starting quarterback, missing their Pro Bowl running back. Chubb's out. I mean, they still managed to put up just enough points to let their defense handle the rest. I mean, we expected their offense to struggle. They're on their third starting quarterback in 3 weeks. I mean, Dorian Thompson Robinson was benched last week after 1 week. PJ Walker started this week. I mean, it was it was a great scrappy game. I mean, it was fun, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. So I mean, we have been talking about Cleveland's defense. We know they're legit, but without Deshaun Watson, with PJ Walker starting, the Niners being 5-0, and the Niners have a great defense too.
hmm,
So we just assume the Niners are going to win this one, 24-13 in a defensive struggle or something like that.
yeah.
But credit to Jim Schwartz. For whatever reason, he seems to really understand the Kyle Shanahan offense. The defensive players of the Browns said Schwartz knew the strengths and weaknesses of the Niners, and we just listened to him and followed his direction, and he led us to a win. Um, PJ Walker was the backup for the Bears, and he struggled and looked bad for us. But uh, PJ Walker, 4-3 record as a starter, wins this game. He's now 5-3. Who would ever? No one would ever guess that PJ Walker would have a winning record in the NFL as a starter.
I mean, good for him. Although I do have to say, I think the Browns game ball should go to Jake Moody, the 49ers kicker. This poor bastard. Um, his whole family came to the game. They were taking pictures together before the game just to watch him miss a 54-yarder, a 41-yarder that, it was a 2-point game. They needed those 6 points. He
Yeah,
made, he made both extra points and he made a 25-yarder. I mean,
he with his whole family there, he could have been the hero. You know what I
he could
mean?
have. That was the game-winning field goal late in the fourth quarter. Drifted right.
Yeah. It's tough
And
to kick in Cleveland. You got the lakefront right there. You got the wind coming off of that. But no excuses. You're an NFL kicker. You got to make that. Uh, Jake had 49er fans feeling moody after this one.
oh no. So let me take over. We won't let Alex talk for a couple of minutes. So besides the lack of accuracy from their kicker, the Browns defense faced a 49ers offense that had scored 30 plus points in 8 consecutive regular season games. If
Yeah,
you had told me San Francisco would be held under 20, you tried to. And like last week on the podcast, you said, I don't think they'll put up as many this week. I think it's going to be a lot closer. It's going to be a lower scoring game. I gave you some pushback on that, so I got to eat my words a little bit. And you and I both wanted the Browns to win, but picked the Niners to win because why would we see what was going to take place? I mean, the
yeah.
Niners had such a tough game. Like Deebo Samuel left the game, Christian McCaffrey left the game. I
Trent
mean,
Williams
Trent
too.
Williams went out.
Yeah,
Purdy had his worst game so far as a starter. He went 12 for 27,
that's the biggest
125
story.
yards.
That's the
I
biggest
mean,
story in my opinion. Brock Purdy looked human for once, and he really struggled, and he turned the ball over. Um, that's the reason they lost. And I mean, you lose Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Trent Williams. That's a huge part of your offense too. And bottom line is, no one's made Brock Purdy look like this but the Cleveland Browns defense. We have to give the Browns, Jim Schwartz and that defense, a lot of credit.
yeah, it was a rough game for Purdy. I'm sure they'll bounce back from it. But there was some game management late in the game that was pretty damaging as well. I mean, there was some stupid penalties. They, had some issues with paying attention to the clock before spiking the ball. They let it wind down. There was some wasted time and some poor decisions there as well. But yeah, Purdy had a rough game. He and Nick
Mm-hmm.
Moody should have had a little conference call after the game and hugged one out because
Mm-hmm.
both of them needed some therapy and their mom's hugs or something after that game because that was a tough game for them.
Do you think so? Everyone was calling Brock Purdy the next Tom Brady last week. We had talked about it briefly, but I listened to other national media outlets. There was a lot of talk. I mean, a Niners analyst said that Brock Purdy is going to win 3 of the next 5 Super Bowls after last week. Does this put a damper on Brock Purdy at all, or do you think the Niners are just fine?
I think they're going to be just fine. I mean,
Yeah,
the next Tom Brady, I mean, we have to remember Tom Brady, it's not like they were putting up 16 win seasons year after year.
yeah.
They
He
just
had to have
won
a
when
great
they needed
defense.
to, and
Yeah,
they had a great defense. And I think the Niners just had a bad week and they'll bounce back just fine. I mean, we've seen teams recover from a lot worse so far this year. And I think the Niners will be fine. Um, I mean, the Browns running game recovered after losing Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, they teamed up. They had a 20-yard assist from Marquise Goodman. I mean, teams can recover from a bad game. They can recover from, a break in their winning streak. I think this will just kind of fuel them for a better comeback in their next matchup for sure.
yeah. And if you're a Browns fan, you have to be optimistic. If this defense can do that, imagine what the possibilities are if Deshaun Watson can get healthy, right? And so hopefully Deshaun Watson can get and stay healthy, and we can see the true potential of this Browns team. Browns defense has only allowed 1,000 yards through 5 games, the third fewest since 1970.
Yeah.
So give this team a quarterback, stay healthy, and who knows? Nobody wants to play this team in the playoffs. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see how these teams' next few weeks go. I mean, the Niners should have an easy win at Minnesota next week, and then they've got the Bengals, the Jags, and the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
So that'll say a lot about who the Niners are and how, Brock Purdy's going to go moving forward. But I see them, pulling through those. If they start losing those matchups with the Bengals and the Buccaneers, then I'll start to question Brock Purdy. But the kid can have a rough game. He had an amazing game last week. I'll cut him some slack this week. And then the Browns coming down the lines. They've got the Colts coming up. They play Seattle, Cardinals, and Ravens. So both of them have some pretty challenging games in the next month, and I'll be interested to see how they go moving forward for sure.
yeah. See if they can keep up this historical defense. Um, let's go 0-5 Panthers at the 4-1 Dolphins. Panthers jump out to a 14-0 first quarter lead. I was tweeting, "Let's go Panthers." I was all in. And then the Dolphins go on to outscore them 42-7 the rest of the game and double them up 42-21 in Miami. Uh, Good start for Carolina, but the Dolphins just overwhelmed them, and they're obviously the better team. Uh, Good job for Miami to weather the storm early and then throw up 42 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Young played his best football we've seen out of him in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he's got it in him. We got to see a flash of it. I mean, touchdown drives. He played really well that first quarter. Gorgeous touchdown pass to Adam Thielen. That was stunning.
Yeah.
And then Miami woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Touchdowns on five of its next six possessions. I mean, we know the Miami formula at this point. Achan's out. Raheem Mostert's there. I mean, Tyreek Hill is insane. It it's almost
Yeah.
disgusting to watch him because like he does exactly what you expect him to do every week, and no one has an answer for him. I mean,
Yeah, it's
six
yeah.
times for 163 yards and a touchdown.
It's
Like,
crazy with guys like him, Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, uh, Jamar Chase. You know they're gonna get the ball
yeah,
like so many targets, so many touches every game, and it's like, why can't you just double or triple team them and say, look, I don't care if I'm wide leaving guys wide open over here, but this dude is not gonna beat me, right?
dude, it's got to be so frustrating as a defensive player facing those guys. Like, why the fuck can't we stop you?
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because Tyreek Hill knows how good he is. He's set up
Mhm.
so that when he scores a touchdown, someone hands him a cell phone and he does a backflip.
Yeah.
The No Fun League intervened on that, but just it's got to be fun to be that talented and just know like this the defenses, NFL defenses can't keep me out of the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 814 receiving yards through six games. He's the first player in NFL history to have 150 plus receiving yards in four of a team's first six game in any season. I mean,
Hmm.
he's said himself he wants to be the first guy with 2,000 receiving yards in one season. I mean, if he keeps up this pace, he'll finish the season with 2,306. Like
Yeah.
that mark should be easy for him at this point.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, shout out to Mostert as well. I mean, he is staying healthy. That's surprising for him in itself. He finished with 132 total yards himself and three touchdowns.
Three
He
touchdowns. Yeah.
is a workhorse for that team. And I mean, I was surprised that the 49ers let him go
Yeah. Me too.
because
And
he was so great there. And now he's, healthy and playing just as well here. So yeah, good for him. Miami became the first team during the Super Bowl era with both 15 rushing and receiving touchdowns after six games. So,
wow. Yeah, they're historic, and right
yeah.
now Tua ranks first in the NFL in passer rating, passing yards, passing touchdowns. It would do a lot for Tua to get an MVP award. Is he the early front runner, do you think?
I mean, I think it's Tyreek Hill. I know we don't like
Yeah,
to give him to receivers very often, but at this point, holy shit. How does he
I'm
not get it?
yeah. I'm excited to see the Dolphins are out to a 5-1 start. But like I said back in week 1 or week 2, whatever, this team is streaky. That's who they are. They're 5-1. I expect things to get a little bumpy from here on out as they play at the Eagles and versus the Chiefs in Germany in 2 of the next 3 weeks. The Dolphins could easily be 6-3 in 3 weeks.
I mean, that's going to be one of those situations that we just have to like wait and see how it goes. Because
Hmm.
I think this Dolphins team, with some of their additions, is better than we've seen in previous years.
I do
Um,
too. I agree.
but old habits die hard. So I'll
Yeah.
be interested to see how that goes for them. But speaking of, streaks, we've got the Panthers 0-6. I mean,
Owen, yep. 0-6. And Frank Reich announces that he's given up offensive play calling duties. Offensive coordinator Thomas Brown will take over from here on out.
oh, cool.
I, I'm se-
I
I'm
didn't see
sens
that.
Yeah, I'm sensing a little panic in Carolina, and that owner David Tepper is very hands-on, and
Hmm.
he's not happy. He's a billionaire. You know how billionaires are. They don't like to lose. Um, they traded up to draft Bryce Young. They're out to an 0-6 start. If they don't turn it around, Frank Reich's going to be out of there after 1 year. So
Well, I hadn't seen that news about him because I had written in my notes here, their final 8 possessions of the game were 3 punts, 4 turnovers on downs, and a missed field goal.
yeah,
Like Bryce Young
unacceptable.
has some potential. We saw it in that first quarter of the game, but Frank Rice needs to work out some kinks or he's going to be out of Carolina, is what I wrote in my notes. And I hadn't seen that update. So yeah, I mean, you and I are on the same page with that. But looking down their schedule, they've got to win eventually. So I mean,
Hmm.
Texans next week, I don't think they're going to win that one. Then they've got the Colts, and then they're coming into Chicago. If I had to pick one of those teams for them to beat, it would be Chicago.
Yeah, I mean they could easily win against Chicago. Bryce
Thursday
Young. I
night
mean,
football.
yeah, it depends if Justin Fields plays. That's going to be a fun matchup of two young quarterbacks trying to figure it out. They could beat the Colts. The Colts have a decent defense, but I'm not sold on Minshew mania. They could beat. So Texans game is going to be fun too. You got the number 1 overall pick against the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
Uh, big, you know, pride on the line for both these quarterbacks in that matchup.
Yeah. I just think one of them has a better team built around him.
I agree. Um, they seem to be just feeding Adam Thielen and not really worrying about anybody else. And
It's clearly not
it's
working.
yeah. So maybe Thomas Brown provides a spark, but I just think the Panthers aren't very good. And even if they do get a win in there, I mean, I think we're looking at a 1-10, 1-11 team.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be rough coming down the line for them. They've got the Bucks, the Saints. I mean, their division is tough anyway. So they had their
Hmm.
work cut out for them before they dropped to an 0-6 start. But
Yeah,
you mentioned Minshew mania. Let's move on to that Colts game.
yeah. And I've been preaching this, so I know a couple Colts fans, and they keep every time I see them, they're like, "How about Gardner Minshew? He's better than Anthony Richardson. He should have started week 1. We'd be in the playoff hunt if Gardner Minshew started." Shut the fuck up. Gardner Minshew, 3-10 as a starter since 2019, falls to 3-11. I had a pretty good feeling about this game with the Jags. I said it on the last podcast about these people got to stop sleeping on Jacksonville. They're
Mhm.
far too talented to be around 500. They finally put it together, win 37-20. And Minshew looked terrible. What? 4 turnovers, 3 picks, a fumble lost. Uh, I
And he was
if
spreading them around too. It's not like one person had a target on him. I mean, Andre Cisco got one, Rayshon Jenkins, Darius Williams, they each got interceptions. Josh Allen forced the fumble. Like, it's not like one guy had it out for him. He was just handing out the ball like it was Halloween candy. It was
yeah,
it was tough.
and he could have thrown 5 or 6. There was a couple that bounced out. Rayshon Jenkins alone could have had 3 interceptions in that game.
Yeah, he had a couple missed picks there. I thought that was interesting too. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, I picked the Colts in this game just to spite you. I thought it could go either way depending on which Colts team showed up.
And
Um,
Jags too, right? You don't know which Jags team is going to
yeah,
show up.
it's like this game. I was like, I literally had no. I picked it live on the podcast because they're both Jekyll and Hyde teams. Like either they're going to be good or they're going to be absolute dog shit. And the Colts picked the dog shit option this week. I think the O line is with you in your opinion about Gardner Minshew because they did not seem to give two shits about protecting him.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what to make of that team over there. The Colts are a little bit dysfunctional as well. They're a
Hmm.
better roster than they play on a weekly basis, and it's not getting any better. As Jim Irsay said on Monday, I believe that Anthony Richardson is likely going to have surgery and be out for the season. So Minshew mania from here on out. And like I said, like I told Colts fans, Minshew's 3-11 as a starter. He's not a consistent winner in this league. He's an all right backup, but if you're gonna start him from here on out, I don't think the Colts win more than 6 games this season.
Yeah, I think they need to bring in someone else to make him more competitive because he plays really, really well under pressure. That's how Minshew Mania started, is you put him in a tight spot when he shouldn't be winning the game, and he'll squeak out a win if he needs to. But I think he needs to feel threatened, so they need to bring in some veteran to threaten his starting job. But I mean that Jacksonville defense, we need to give some respect to them. They're
Yeah.
opportunistic and they are great. They've scored 41 points off of 15 turnovers. They lead the NFL. They have 9 takeaways through their last 3 game win streak, 20% turnover rate, which is second in the NFL. So that Jacksonville defense is still holding solid. I just didn't trust their offense. Um, and I mean, Indianapolis had no chance to make progress on the ground this week. Like it was just bad. I mean, linebackers were all over them. It wasn't until the Jags put up a 25-point lead that the offense finally figured out how to move the ball. I mean, it was a rough loss for Indy, and it's going to be even worse if Richardson's out for the rest of the season. So, I mean, that's one of those teams who I think we can just kind of scrap the season for them.
Yeah, anytime the Colts, their leading rusher was like 18 yards, right? It was
Yeah.
terrible. You're not gonna win playing like that. And credit to how about Josh Allen, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Allen, 7 sacks through 6 games this year, 2 forced fumbles as well. He's a monster. He's trying to get a big payday, and he seems well on his way. I mean, you know, we're looking at 15 plus sacks if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the name or what, but I mean, if you've got a kid named Josh Allen out there, get him into football because Josh Allen's do great in the NFL.
This is the better Josh Allen right here.
I mean, don't talk about my boo thing like that.
So Colts, it doesn't get any better as well. This news broke today. One of the best run stoppers in the NFL, defensive tackle Grover Stewart, their starting DTs, has been suspended 6 games for PEDs.
I mean, if I was on the Colts, I'd probably want to, try to
Yep.
dabble in the gray areas too to try to help him out. But that sucks.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really rough loss for them. But I think, once Richardson was out for the season, like, does it matter at this point? I'm assuming they've given up hope.
Yeah, I mean, they might tell you, we believe in Minshew. We believe we can still contend in this division. I don't believe it. They got to prove it to me. The Jags should, quote, should run away with this division from here on out. But let's talk about these Texans. We keep saying, oh, the Texans are building. They're not quite there yet. You're starting a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback. They're not going to contend right away. That's impossible, right? They get to 3-3 with a big home win over the Saints. We were right about CJ Stroud interception streak coming to an end, but who cares if you can get the win, right?
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those situations where I we both were pulling for the Texans to win this one. But
Mhm.
on paper, the Saints have the better team. They just played awful this week. I mean, they committed 7 penalties, 4 against the O-line. Derek Carr was flagged once too. I mean, it was a rough game for the Saints, and shout out to that Texans defense because they were putting pressures on and I mean, they weren't phenomenal, but they did just enough to pull off the game. I mean, early on they missed a probable pick six, didn't get his hands around the ball, failed to cover a wide open touchdown on the next possession, but then they kind of found their stride and allowed the Saints to run up 430 yards, but still pulled off the win. So it wasn't pretty, but it worked.
That's the motto in today's NFL is we'll give up 400 plus yards. We don't care. We're just not going to give up points. And you can win a lot of football games that way. The Texans only give up 3 points in the second half. Derek Carr, one of his better statistical games, 353 yards passing. But if it only leads to 13 points, you'll take your chances. And I can't talk enough about rookie head coach D'Amico Ryans coming in there to a bad culture with the Houston Texans and turning that around and being competitive. And he's got that defense playing their ass off. I love to see it.
Oh yeah, I think he's really just boosted the morale on that defense too. Like I see them rallying on the sidelines and the way he hypes them up. I think it's a good mental energy going on into these games too.
Yeah, I love former player head coaches, right? They understand the game, they understand the emotion of the game, how to talk to players, what players need to hear. And I think D'Amico Ryans was a home run hire there. And we got to start giving the Texans credit. I mean, they won in Jacksonville. They beat the Steelers. Now they beat the Saints. All three games, none of us would have picked them to win. They're proving the doubters wrong early this season.
Yeah, I mean they're at 500 or above for the first time through 6 games since 2019. They have
Yeah.
been they have been ready to have a 500 season at this point, and I mean I think they're finding their stride at the right time. CJ Stroud didn't have the best game statistically, but he stayed cool, collected, didn't get in his head after that interception, and that was a big interception for him.
Yeah. And he didn't exactly. He didn't let it get to his head and turn that one interception into two or three. He only threw
Mhm.
that one, protected the football. Credit to him on that. He seems mentally like a pro. You know, he seems to get it.
Yeah, I'm excited for him coming down the line because I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks. I mean, right now he's making case for rookie of the year at this point.
Yeah.
So good for him. He'll move past that interception, and I'm excited to watch the rest of the season.
Yeah. Speaking of excited to watch, how are you feeling about this Patriots Raiders game?
I mean, the Patriots put up more than 3 points, so good for them. I mean, Brian Hoyer did what he needed to do to keep the Raiders afloat there. I mean, Garoppolo exited the game after the first half. His back was acting up. Hoyer stepped in, and Hoyer is one of those backups that's the type of backup you need. He knows exactly what to do. His second pass, a 3rd and 4 strike over the middle, Trey Tucker, 48 yards. That's what you want your backup quarterback to step in and do. Be in for 2 plays and put up almost 50 yards with a great pass. I mean, he definitely helped with that, getting the game going there for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. You need I don't know why they started Aiden O'Connell against the Chargers. They should have started Brian Hoyer. Another questionable move by Josh McDaniels. Um, but I agree, Hoyer's the better option there. And how about Max Crosby? Like he's really the only threat on that defense, on that D line that you really have to worry about. He should be getting double, triple teamed every play, and yet every week Max Crosby is making game major impacting plays every week. He gets a safety that ends the game, and the Raiders win. I mean, he's an absolute dog.
Yeah, anytime where a safety happens in a game, it's just not going to go your way. I mean, the game ended with it, but like we've seen games start with a safety, like that's just a bad omen.
Yeah,
Like it's embarrassing, and he pulled that one off really well. But I mean, for the Patriots, nothing is going right for them. I mean, they
no,
performed better offensively than the past 2 weeks. I mean, the past 2 weeks combined, they put up 3 points. They put up 17 this week. So, quick round of applause for them. But oh my God, it, it was just bad. They I have never seen anyone work so hard to put up 17 points.
yeah, that's the problem. Is that they don't have a lot of big playmakers. They have to work that hard. And one guy that could provide a spark, he got one touchdown called back on a penalty, scored on another one. Feed Zeke. Like Zeke Elliott's still got a little bit left in the tank. They haven't been feeding him much this year. Get him the damn ball. He's one of the only guys on that roster that has proven it before that he can get the job done. So give him some more touches.
Yeah, well, when you've got people like Devontae Parker dropping Mac Jones' best pass of the year,
Yeah.
like you need to rely on your run game more. I mean,
Yep.
that final touchdown they scored to bring it to a 2 point game was a 17 play drive that lasted 9.5 minutes.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, whatever we're doing right now isn't working. Like, how do you just let that keep happening? I mean, 20 points over 3 weeks.
They just don't. The issue in New England is they don't have the talent. Uh, they've missed on a lot of picks lately, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They've got some ballers on defense, but on the offensive side of the ball, they don't have much at all, and that's the issue. There's not that much talent. You can bring in any coach you want. You can, when Zeke Elliott is one of the guys that you are like, hey, we gotta give him the ball if we're gonna do anything. That's not a good sign. And
Yeah, that's true. And that O
that,
line has just been a revolving door.
yeah.
I don't know if
So
they've had the same O line 2 weeks in a row.
I think it's going to be a long year. I mean, I don't see the Patriots winning more than 5 games this year, and it might be time for some major changes. Bill Belichick, you can never take away all those championships, all the success that he's had in the NFL, but I think that he's so behind the 8 ball there in New England at this point as far as talent goes that it might just be time for a fresh voice and a new culture there.
I feel like football has changed a lot. And when you
Mhm.
have Tom Brady, you can get stuck in a rut because it'll still work. But when Tom Brady's gone, you gotta get caught up with, how things are, how the game is played now, what works, analytics. I mean, it's a different game than it was when Tom Brady came to the league and started winning. And I don't think Belichick is quite caught up with that.
Absolutely, and if you draft a quarterback high in the first round and he turns out to be a bust, I don't care what franchise you are, you're likely fucked. And that's where New England's at right now. Mac Jones is probably not it.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. Well, another tough Patriots loss. Moving on.
well, and credit to the Raiders, they're at 500. They're finding some ways, but I don't think either of us expects this team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely not. I do want to just give a quick shout out to Jacoby Myers, Raiders wide receiver. He spent his first 4 seasons with the Patriots, and he scored more touchdowns this week than he did in his entire first 38 career games with New England. One,
Damn,
one
that's
touchdown.
crazy.
He
These,
never scored a touchdown with New England in four
it's
years.
it's crazy that Jimmy G and him have a built-in chemistry, and from their New England days, I like Jacoby Myers a lot. He's a very underrated wide receiver,
Hmm.
and he's getting a lot more targets than Devontae Adams. I expect Devontae Adams to be asking for a trade out of Vegas very soon.
Oh, I can think of a couple teams who would take him.
Not Green Bay, that's for sure.
Oh, don't talk to me about that.
Let's talk Cardinals Rams.
Okay, so this was one of those games where it kind of went like everyone predicted. I mean, the Rams came into town, or the Rams were at home. The Cardinals came into town, and the Rams just, 26-9. It was a tough Carolina or Cardinals loss. God, I can't talk. But no one expected this day to go differently. I mean, the second half of the game, the Rams remembered to run the ball. They were throwing it the entire first half. I mean, LA logged 3 carries the entire first half of the game. It was very misbalanced. 4 first downs, 9 minutes in time of possession in the first half of the game, but they woke up and remembered how to run the ball and pulled off the win pretty soundly. But I mean the Cardinals, they just get stuck. I don't know what happens. They almost have a perfect first half of the game. Running game was great. Different players combined for 103 rushing yards. Like I just they don't turn it into anything. They'll move
Well,
down the field and then get stopped in the end zone, in the red zone every time.
they don't have the playmakers. They don't have the talent. We talk about New England not having any talent. The Cardinals don't have any talent, in my opinion. I mean, they got Hollywood Brown, they got an old Zach Ertz, but this is a bad Cardinals team. Josh Dobbs is not an NFL starter, and after 3 close games to start the season, we're finally seeing who this Cardinals team is. They're a 1-5 team. They're a 3-14 team. They're a bad team, and it this is a shot at the Rams that it took them this long to pull away. They were trailing 9-3 in the first half, but credit to the Rams, they finally got it together, pulled away in the second half, and won easily. But I don't think the Rams are that good. At least they're
No.
500. But the Cardinals are abysmal. They're terrible. They want Caleb Williams, and they're going a roundabout way to get it, but they're going to get it. They're going to finish. The only team that could finish worse than the Cardinals is the Panthers, and I still think the Cardinals finish worse. I think the Panthers might squeeze out 4 wins. Cardinals are going 2-15 or 3-14. They're a bad team.
Yeah, and I think losing James Conner just made him even worse. I mean,
Yeah.
it was rough. And I mean, granted, if you look at just the score, like, oh yeah, the Rams won. The first half of the game, it didn't look like they were gonna win. And I was questioning things a little bit. But I mean, Cooper Kupp is still amazing. I mean, no wonder throw the ball only to him and it works out. I mean,
Mhm.
no one has an answer for him either. He's in that list of people who, they just always get the ball. He's got 2 straight outings with over 100 yards after returning from that hamstring injury, and he's bested his stellar 8-catch, 118-yard performance last week. I mean, I just don't think that Arizona knew what to do in that second half of the game. I mean, their defense did its thing in the first half, and the Rams hadn't woken up yet, but this game just it got away from them, and it was not a clean game. It was not pretty. I don't think there was anything to call home back for either team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Rams defense, I guess, they generated pressure on 23 of 46 dropbacks. It was the highest pressure rate in a game this season in the NFL. So I guess there's that, but I mean, you're playing the Cardinals, so does it really count?
Yeah, and the Rams need to keep a close eye on the situation with. I mean, so Cooper Kupp comes back, and there's a built-in chemistry with him and Stafford, and now he's getting all the targets. But it's got to be difficult for a guy like Puka Nakua, who comes in and starts out the year red hot, is breaking NFL records for the hottest start to a career ever, uh, hottest selling jersey in the NFL, Puka Nakua. And then now he's kind of an afterthought. He's not, and Cooper Kupp's getting all the targets. Stafford's very much, I'm going to throw it to one guy and I'm going to throw it to him a ton, you know? And so I wonder if Puka gets frustrated at all at any point this season after such a hot start, and then if the Rams don't make sure to include him in the offense, I don't know. Uh, that's
I think
that's a
they
tough
will.
situation.
I think it's just
But
one of those situations where like Kupp is the easiest guy to go to. And when you're playing a defense that's so bad, just go to your easiest target. Like, why the fuck
yeah,
not? I think
well,
they'll
I mean,
face better defenses that'll force Stafford to spread it around. But I mean, he's known Kupp longer. They've got better chemistry. Just use him in the games you can and spread it around in the games you need to.
yeah, but me and you, anytime we play Madden, anytime you like to spread the ball around, you like to get everybody involved, and Stafford's just not that kind of guy.
I
Like
mean,
you,
he's coming into Dallas in 2 weeks, and then Seattle's coming to town. He's going to be spreading the ball around because Kupp is not going to be as open as he was this weekend.
yeah, he's gonna be spreading the ball around to Quandre Diggs and the defenders.
Yeah, well, still spreading
Um,
the ball around though. I said what I said. You can quote me on that when he throws 3 interceptions to Seattle.
I got you. So let's talk about Alex's call of the year so far. I had to talk myself into this one. I was so close to picking the Eagles. I mean, I knew this was a long shot. I figured if I'm going to pick the Jets to beat the Cowboys in week two, I might as well pick the Jets to beat the Eagles. And this time it worked out for me.
And it did.
Um, no Darius Slay and no Jalen Carter factored into my decision. I thought it would be closer. The Jets defense is balling, and they played great in this game. The Jets defense, the Browns are getting all the hype for the best defense. The Jets defense is right there with them. They are balling. They are playing great football right now. And Zach Wilson, no turnovers. And that is huge. If Zach Wilson can protect the football and they can run the ball behind Brees Hall and play defense, this Jets team can hang with anybody with a defense like that. And the Eagles are up 14-3. It looks like it's going to go according to plan, and they're going to win. And the Jets defense shuts them out in the second half, and you get a pick or get a couple interceptions, get momentum in your favor, and look at what can happen. Shocker of the weekend, though. What were your thoughts seeing the Jets pull this off?
I think something about Aaron Rodgers being on the sideline without crutches and without a boot, I mean, I think it got them thinking that there was a chance,
Yeah.
and they got hopeful. I mean, Rodgers jumped on the headset a little bit during the game. He didn't speak directly to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson said it was still through
Yeah.
Hackett, but he was in. He was helping design some play calls, and I mean, you could see some Aaron Rodgers behind those plays in that second
Mm-hmm.
half. I mean, it felt like a Green Bay game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was the first win over the Eagles.
ever.
I mean, good for them.
Yeah. 0-12 in
Hmm.
NFL history before Sunday. I That's crazy. You would think in NFL history the Jets had beaten the Eagles at some point.
I
Nice
mean,
to
they
see
only
that finally
play
snap.
every
Yeah,
3 years. I mean,
yeah.
it was Gang Green's first win over an undefeated team in week 6 or later since week 16 of 2009 at Indianapolis.
Wow. Impressive win though. That's going to do a ton for that locker room. And talk about doing a ton for that locker room. Seeing Aaron Rodgers pregame playing catch, throwing the
Oh my God.
football, and all that talk about him coming back. We're starting to believe it. I mean, you get to 500. No one would have anticipated once Aaron Rodgers
Mm-mm.
goes down 4 plays in the season that at week 6 you'd be 3-3 going into week 7. There's belief, and I tell you what, if the defense keeps playing, if knock on wood they can stay healthy, and Aaron Rodgers comes back, this team is absolutely no one wants to play the Jets in the playoffs. If they can sneak in at 9-8 as the 7th seed, good luck to the
Yeah.
AFC because that's going to be a story to watch come December.
Yeah, I mean, especially if that defense keeps playing as well as they did. I mean, they only got 2 sacks on Hurts, but I mean, 9 QB pressures. They didn't take full advantage of the turnovers they were able to get. But I mean, Hurts threw 3 interceptions. There was a fumble, a missed field goal. I mean, everything went right for the Jets to win this one, and so much of that can be accredited to that defense.
Yes, and we also have to give blame to the Eagles. And they became impatient and were forcing the ball. The
Hmm.
Eagles are one of the best running teams in the NFL. Just run the rock. And it doesn't even need, you got plenty of good running backs. You got
Oh,
Jalen Hurts. Don't force it. And Hurts forced the ball multiple times, turned the rock over, and momentum swung. And then shit happens. You fuck around, shit happens. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I mean, his passes were all over the place. I've never seen him be so inaccurate in a game before. The run game was bobbled up. Receivers were dropping the ball left and right. I mean,
Yep,
there were so
Devontae
many blown
Smith.
blocks after Lane Johnson left the game.
Yep,
Bad penalties, stupid penalties.
yep.
Um, so yeah, not a consistent game and a bit of a roller coaster for Eagles fans there. But hopefully they can address some of those issues because
Yeah, yeah.
that wasn't a good look.
Reality check for both the Niners and the Eagles. Both teams were 5-0, but it was everyone in the NFL was saying it's an inevitable. Yeah, it's going to be a Eagles Niners NFC Championship game, and no one is a threat outside of them too. And it's a reality check for both teams who were feeling themselves too much and got bit in the ass against two great defenses. And it's 2023, and everyone's going to tell you it's a quarterback league, it's an offense league. Patrick Mahomes is always your Super Bowl MVP or Matthew Stafford, but we have to remember that defense can also win in this league. And if you play great defense and protect the football, anything can happen. And we saw that from the Jets and the Browns, and it's a good reality check, not only for these two teams, but for the NFL to remind you that there's multiple ways to win football games.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was.
Um, are the Eagles panicking a little bit? They went and signed veteran Julio Jones today.
I was just gonna say it was enough to make him go out and sign somebody. So obviously they're feeling some pressure. I
Yeah.
mean, panicking or trying to fill holes.
Yeah, Devontae Smith with a couple drops might have played a role. Julio Jones coming off a career low, 24 catches, 2 touchdowns last season, but you don't need him to be wide receiver 1 or even wide receiver 2. He can be wide receiver 4 or 5, but come late in the season, December, January, and you need to throw the ball up and have, a 50-50 ball, Julio Jones can still do that.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those games that made him feel some pressure to go out and fix some issues. And if Jones is gonna be the person to address those issues for him, great.
Yeah, multiple teams could use Julio Jones, and
Yeah.
the rich get richer. Philly gets them, but I mean, you know, we're there in Green Bay. You're like, we could have used Julio Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Let's Green Bay had a bye week. Let's not talk about them this week.
Well, let's talk about their rival, the Lions.
I mean, this game. So I picked the Lions to win this one. As much as I wanted Tampa Bay to win, Detroit was going to have this one in the bag. They destroyed them despite missing David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs missed his second straight game. I mean, they handed the run game over to some relatively unseen players so far this year. I mean, Craig Reynolds hasn't done much of anything so far this season, and they used him and it worked well enough. I mean, they won 20-6. It was definitely a rough home loss for the Bucks. Their offense was non-existent. They drove into Detroit territory only 3 times.
Yeah.
First 2 drives ended in field goals. The last one was a turnover on downs. I mean, you cannot win a game with 2 field goals.
Well, to me, this was a big game for the Lions passing game and Jared Goff. This is the first time that it's actually opened my eyes. Like, Jared Goff played excellent in this game. No turnovers, 353 yards, and he was dicing up that zone defense in Tampa Bay, who's got ballers out there. You're talking about Levante David, Devin White, Carlton Davis, Antoine Winfield Jr. They got into so many third and longs, and the Bucks defense. This was a very frustrating game to watch. As someone who picked the Bucks, like, I was ready to spike the remote off the ground. Like, you get in, you play solid defense, you force third and long, third and long, third and long, and can't get off the field. And you're playing that stupid zone, and all Jared Goff is doing is hitting the open guy. And it doesn't matter if it's Amon Ra or Josh Reynolds or Khalif Raymond or Sam Laporta. He's just hitting the open guy. And that's good offense. But at some point, if you're Tampa Bay, you got to switch it up. And it was very frustrating. And they held them to 20 points. It's not like the Lions threw up 42 on them. The Bucks offense just missed opportunity after missed opportunity. Baker had a bad game. He had Mike Evans open for a touchdown twice or 3 times. He had Trey Palmer deep for big shot plays and missed them. Baker had a bad game, and it makes me question Tampa Bay going forward. Like, Baker better play better than that. Otherwise, this is fool's gold in Tampa Bay.
I mean, he did have some pain. He said there was shooting pain going up his non-throwing arm. So there was a bit of a reason for a struggle, but Mike Evans also dropped a couple passes there.
Yeah,
that
he
third
did.
and 12 pass hit him in the hands.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was terrible.
That would have been a first down conversion that they desperately needed. But I think this game is more about the Lions. That Lions defense, it's not really talked about so much. I mean, their offense has been good. But this is the 4th time this season Detroit's D has held its opponent to 20 points or fewer. I mean, 3 of those games have been on the road. That is how you win on the road. And I think we got to take Detroit seriously, as much as it pains the NFC North opponent fans out here. But yeah, I think they're the real deal. And I think the Bucks have some kinks to work out. Baker does not play well injured. Some quarterbacks can, fight through injuries and play through them just fine. Baker's a bit of a sensitive guy, and I don't think he does that quite as well as some other quarterbacks.
Yeah, to me, what the biggest play of this game was the 45-yard touchdown to Jameson Williams, who hasn't really been shown up really in a big way until that play that put him up 2 scores. So credit to Detroit, a big win, and I expect Tampa Bay to bounce back. But a bad game. I was very frustrated with the creamsicle Bucks, and we'll see if the Lions can continue to keep playing at this level. But I don't expect them to. Like, I'm still like, let's be real. The Lions should win the division. They should host a playoff game. That's going to be enough in itself right there. A home playoff game in Detroit. The city's going to be going nuts. Big question to me is, can you win that game? And but I expect the Lions to go 10-7, 11-6, and win the division. So.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I was disappointed that the creamsicles didn't bring luck as well, but that's all right.
Play like ass, you deserve to get beat. That's what the Bucks did. Real quick, Sunday Night Football. We don't have to talk much about this game. The Bills played down to their opponent, like they've been doing a decent amount lately. but they steal the win in the end. I mean, if you lost the Tyrod Taylor Giants, that would have been a horrible loss. At least the Bills got the win, but a very sloppy game.
Yeah, I think that their London jet lag situation isn't fully worn off, but it didn't feel like the Bills were fully in it. It didn't seem like they were untalented. It just seemed like they just weren't fully awake and needed some coffee and another night of sleep first. So I think that was just a play down to your opponent, take the easy win, and don't try that hard, and we'll recover better for next week kind of situation for the Bills.
Yeah. Brian Dable is really starting to piss me off. He loves to be very animated and throw his quarterback under the bus any chance he gets. Like, oh, it's not
Hmm.
my fault. It's the quarterback or the OC. You're the head coach. Take some responsibility. Um, the Giants are 1-5, and Brian Dable is a big part of that. A big reason why. But let's move on from that game. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Cowboys Chargers, a great matchup, a game that both teams really needed to win. Kellen Moore facing his old team. Austin Eckler back. Cowboys take a 10-7 lead at halftime and win 20-17. Justin Herbert, a lot of missed opportunities, a bad interception, and Brandon Staley doing what Brandon Staley does best, turnover on downs when he could have scored.
Yeah, this game pissed me off. I picked the Chargers to win. If Herbert could have hit a fucking train, they would have won that
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
I mean, play calls were bad. Herbert was awful. I don't know what was going on there. I mean, it the game was a lot closer. I mean, had that offense played well for LA, they would have won that game by 3 touchdowns. But the Cowboys weren't great either. They need to clean it up. They were pretty sloppy. I mean, they ended up with more penalties accepted against them. They had 11 penalties, botched a
Yeah.
punt return. I mean, it was not a clean operation for them by any means. But they survived this one because LA played worse than them. But the Cowboys can't be doing that and expecting to be, you know, in the race when the season winds down.
This is why I can never pick the Chargers. Brandon Staley, first and foremost, makes dumbass decisions. You can bank on Brandon Staley to make a dumbass decision at least once a game. And because I've been covering him and I know every week it's like, oh, Brandon Staley does it again. And then where are
Mhm.
we at with Justin Herbert? 27-27 record as a starter, absolutely 500. There was a lot of hype about him being a superstar, and he's paid like one. Where are you with Justin Herbert? Is he a superstar or not? Because he sucked last night.
Oh, he sucked last night, but that O line was so bad. I mean, they really miss Mike Williams. I mean, that team, there were so many issues. So, like, you've got the offense missing Mike Williams, the red zone opportunities missed. I mean, Justin Herbert can only do so much on his own. And between the issues on offense and the issues with that offensive line, I mean, he was under duress the entire game. He finished, what, 8 for 18 for 90 yards. If he had time in the pocket and time to work out, okay, like, let me take a second and see who I have open, he doesn't, though. He's under pressure constantly. So, he's not great on his feet in this game at all. Like, normally we'll see him take things into his own hands, but he just didn't have time to work out any plays that would have helped save the game.
Yeah, yeah, just a sloppy game. Good big win for the Cowboys. And the Chargers are who we thought they were. They're a 500 team. They're
Mhm.
not gonna contend with the Chiefs for the division anytime soon, and they might make the playoffs. I doubt it, and that's just who they are. They're tied with the Raiders, and we don't trust the Raiders at all. Why should we trust the Chargers either? So,
Yeah, that's fair.
um, shout out second year corner Deron Bland is absolutely balling, leads the NFL in interceptions and passer rating against. He's got a bland name, so people don't really, you know, think about him as being a star, but take notice of him. Trevon Diggs and Micah Parsons get all the love. Deron Bland is balling in Dallas.
Yeah, he's quietly very good and very a very good contributor for that team.
Yeah. Dan Quinn has got that defense doing really well. So let's go to Week 7 Thursday Night Football. Let's make our picks. The 4-2 Jags at the 3-3 Saints. Trevor Lawrence is day to day with a knee injury. I expect him to play, But if he doesn't, then it's CJ Beathard. Uh, I think taking the safe bet is probably the Saints here, right?
I mean, yeah, but we've seen what the Saints have been doing lately. I mean, the Jags are coming off a big win against the Colts. The Saints are coming off a 20-13 loss against the Texans. I mean,
Yeah,
the Saints are in a slump. They've lost 3 of their last 4. Jacksonville's entering the game with a 3-game winning streak. So, I mean, starting quarterback or not, it almost feels safer to take the Jags here.
yeah. Um, I don't know. It's a tough pick. It's really tough because my heart, I'm gonna root for the Jags. The Jags are one of my teams this year. Trevor Lawrence should be an MVP candidate. I've been hyping him up. The knee injury scares me. If he doesn't play, this feels like a get right game for the Saints.
I mean, this is one of those games where I'm going to make a call 30 minutes before the game when I know who the starting quarterback is going to be.
Okay,
But let's
me
keep our
too.
hopes up that he's going to start. I mean, Jacksonville has yet to lose an away game this season.
Hmm.
So, it'll be interesting. They've won 3 straight. They're 2-0 on the road. I think they can pull off another road victory, hopefully with or without their starting QB, but I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm gonna pick the Jags for now and then potentially eat my words if they have to go to that backup, but we'll see.
Well, if it comes out that Beathard is starting, you can change your pick before kickoff.
Yeah.
Give me the
You'll hold me
Saints.
accountable for that. I'll message you before the game.
Exactly. Give me the Saints.
All
Uh,
right.
but if Trevor Lawrence is limping pregame, or if CJ Beathard starts, yeah, give me the Saints. But if Trevor Lawrence looks 100%, I might switch my pick. But as of right now, give me the fighting Derek Carrs.
Yeah, it's hard to make picks on Tuesday when you don't know what the injury sheet's going to look like. But New Orleans has won 5 of its last 7 meetings with Jacksonville. They've won the last 4 outright. All 3 of them were at home. I mean, let's
Yeah, and I think the Saints are a good team. I think they're better than 500. I think they'll finish like 10-7, 9-8 at worst. And this is the type of game that they should win. So I'm not all the way out on the Saints either.
I'm not yet either, but I feel like I trust them less. They've had some questionable games the past few weeks.
Yeah, 100%. They shouldn't have lost to the Texans.
No, and the Buccaneers made them look bad 3 weeks ago. I mean, yeah, they beat the Patriots, they shut them out, but like, have the Patriots really been competitive at all?
Yeah, it's such a week to week league. It's hard to pick these days.
Yeah, and this season is especially weird.
Yeah, but
But all right,
all right. Well,
Jags for me, Saints for you. We'll see how it rolls out Thursday.
all right.
Great episode as always.
Yeah, good shit as always. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Stay tuned, and have a great week, guys. Peace out.